We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC, coming at you back with some football. Spring practice, spring game is Saturday, so we'll get back into the flow of football. We'll talk wide receiver this episode. We won't go by without talking a little bit of basketball too. Just a couple days after Florida cuts down the nets in San Antonio, we can spend a little bit of time on that too as well. And of course, speaking about Saturday for the spring game, there will be a pregame kind of celebration for the basketball team. So of course, keep your eye out for that. Hopefully some more details will come out by the time I post this or anything like that. But just keep your eyes out there for that. But there is going to be an event. We'll get into a little bit of breaking news here too. I wasn't sure when I was going live with this, but certainly literally about 5-10 minutes before I started doing my last bit of prep. So around 6:13, we'll get into it just a little bit. I will go ahead and say that Hayes Fawcett puts out there, Florida safety Gregory Smith plans to enter the transfer portal. He tells On 3 Sports. 6'4", 217 safety. We have 4 years of eligibility remaining. Of course, he redshirted last year there for the Gators. So certainly I think a lot of this and most of this comes from Lagonza Hayward, Hilton Drake Stubbs come in and are really impressing so far this spring. Gregory Smith was a player also we were just kind of excited about the potential of him getting some playing time this year. And especially, this move coming with all the injuries Florida's had in the secondary. I guess they'll ride in. This is what spring ball is kind of for right now with the transfer portal out there of guys. It's not hard for them to figure out where they are on the depth chart there. So, guys can figure out their worth if NIL plays a part in that too. And you got guys that like the mid-year guys like Hayward and Stubbs are performing, and a guy who's been on the roster and for Smith is going into his second year, but has got 4 years remaining. Maybe sees his value there a little bit more, but then Florida can sit here and say, well, we got these guys and they're performing well, so maybe it's just best to part ways. But I think a lot of this stems from Florida nailing this recruiting class and that safety with Stubbs and Hayward. And those guys right now going through spring practice, as I said, probably not hard to figure out where you stand on the depth chart. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade on Gregory Smith. I mean, I'd rather have him than not have him for a lot of these players. I like his potential this year and the very little we saw of him last year. So certainly, we'll see what more comes out of this. And like I said, it's only been out for like 30 minutes there. I had no idea when this was coming. Now, not a surprise that we're at the end of spring ball. We're starting to hear some names wanting to hit the transfer portal. And RN does come in and say it as well. That just means freshmen are balling. Because Jay Money was letting me know Gregory Smith entered the portal. Sorry, this is the first time I looked at the comments. So just coming around to it. You guys, thanks for hopping in right here, going live on the YouTube and on Twitter. So there you go. Kind of get you brought up to speed if you're joining us live right here on Gators Breakdown. Hope you guys are still celebrating the basketball team just like me. Of course, I got the shirt on. I'll turn these background lights on. Let's get the set, making sure. I forgot to turn that on. I was trying to get live on there, live here as fast as I could. There we go. The set's all looking good. Pay for those lights. Got to use them, right? But I hope you you're just enjoying the big time national championship win for the basketball team. Remember. And enjoy it. They don't come third in basketball. You're not winning one of these every year. And I think one of the best lessons I think we can learn for any sport is enjoy it when it happens. You don't know the next time it's going to happen. So go buy the merch if you can afford the merch, if you can get the merch. Rewatch the game as many times as you want. You have no idea when the next one will be. Now, I think we all feel pretty good about the direction of the program. When you got a head coach who's 39 years old and in his third season at Florida wins the national championship, The expectation is going to be there, and rightfully so. It should have been there anyway, And the bar's been raised, but the bar was kind of already there. Once Billy Donovan got Florida to a winning spot, we knew the potential of a basketball program. And I get tired of the saying of, once your great leaves, you got to just settle and go back to what you were before. No, you don't. No, you don't. Did Duke have to go back to whatever they were before Coach K? No, nobody's saying that, are they? Heck no. They're still the same expectation at Duke. Billy Donovan comes in, raised the bar, raises the expectations of basketball, much like Steve Spurrier did for football at Florida. Ain't nobody says you got to go back to what you were before. No. And I see all the talk about, football, it's been that way too, but for basketball, new blood or blue blood. Florida's not a blue blood, and that's not a shot at the program. Florida's what you would call a new blood, and certainly has claim to top program in the SEC over the last 20 or so years. I mean, this team gets to the tournament, wins games in the tournament, has 3 national championship trophies. Celebrate it. Relish in it. It might happen again next year. It might happen again 2 years, 3 years from now. But you know just how bad it can be. We've been there. So enjoy this one. Don't try and move too fast. Don't get me wrong. We could take a peek to next year and say, hey, what does next year hold for us and all that. But all I'm saying is, at the same time, don't look past what just happened. There's some great merch out there, too, by the way. I mean, shameless plug. Shameless plug for sure. But certainly... So some good merch out there. I have a link in Fanatics, and you guys can, if you want to support Gators Breakdown and get your basketball merch, that's the place to do it. We'll see what happens when I click on this. Yeah, I fixed it. I have to, thought I could just screen share, but for whatever reason, it's not showing up. Anyway, link is in the description. You guys have probably seen it out there. You know what the merch looks like. But now that gets on my nerves. I knew I should have done that before. I thought it was just gonna be easy to put it in there. But no. Now here we go. I think I remember how to do it now. I told you I set up this new recording program, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But here we go. There we go. I knew it wasn't gonna take me long to figure out. So now let me pull it up. If you're watching live, I am so sorry. Boom. There we go. But that's my favorite design, but they only got it in long sleeve. I did reach out to Fanatics. They reached back out to me. They're going to see what they can do with that design right there with the trophy and the confetti and all that stuff. Oh, man, it looks good. But scrolling down, you guys, there's the official hat. That's the hat that I got right there. There's a national champion shirt there that's got the 6 games of the NCAA tournament, the scores that go along with it. This one I really, really like. It's great to be a national champion. Really like that one. Really like that one. Get the towel that you saw Todd Golden carrying around all post-game. Ruben Chinyelu, I think, had one too, and he was just carrying it everywhere with him. That's the official double-sided celebration towel. The polo right there with the logo. Really good job with the logo too, by the way, that they put all kinds of thoughts in, and the logo kind of has some commemoration of the Final Four location, the Sweet 16 location, all that good stuff. The tournament location when Florida, started there in Carolina. I hope you guys saw that floating around out there, but that was pretty good. The shirt that I'm wearing now, the black official one that you saw on the stage there after the game, very similar blue one right there as well. A lot of free shipping going on right now at Fanatics, so click that link in the description. You get free shipping. There's the logo that I was talking about. You see the Golden Gate Bridge, the stars for the commemoration of the state of Texas and San Antonio and the Alamo, where Florida, of course, won it all that good stuff. There's a lot of good details in that logo. And then one more time, if you go to Twitter, now I need to put this in the description too. The basketballs that are out there, commemoration basketballs. Go to my Twitter. There's a link to it right there. Only 5,000 will be made. Use code WATERS, my last name there, WATERS, WATERS, for $10 off from Nico Sports' commemoration basketball that you can get your hands on. So good stuff there. Plenty out there. Even more merch, of course, if you go to Fanatics to see something else you like. You can snatch it up there. But a lot of good stuff. Just a fun, that celebration that they had my days are so messed up. On Tuesday, they're at Flavitt Field. I mean, there were thousands of fans right there, like a concert happening right there at Flavitt Field. And I'm so glad Gator Nation showed up and supported that team. I think the team was kind of surprised at how many people were there. I saw Micah Hanlockton was on the stage, and he kind of turned the camera around and had the people around. It was, like I said, it looked like a rock concert right there with behind Hanlockton. So big time shout out to the fan base for getting together and showing the support for this team. What a fun night it was. I didn't end up going to bed till like 3:30 in the morning. Recorded with Florida Basketball Hour and Eric Foster. Recorded our own Gators Breakdown episode here with a chat with Gators Breakdown Plus members. And just rewatched the end of the game because CBS Sports Network was showing it. As I said, living it. It doesn't happen often. We all were living on caffeine on Tuesday. Like I said, I got about 3 hours of sleep. Adrenaline and caffeine. And then I was on Channel 4, where I work at for my normal 9 to 5, quote-unquote, job. But they had me on the morning show. They had me on the news at noon. They had me at 5:30. So we're doing TV hits, talking about the Gators. It was just a fun day to revel in it all on Tuesday. Hope you guys had as much fun as I did watching the game, celebrating. My wife and daughter, they couldn't stay up. they passed out. But certainly, heard me celebrating. Right around, I guess it was, 11:15, 11:30. So, good stuff. Great to be national champion, for sure. But as I said, if you want your merchandise, you can support Gators Breakdown. Use my link, use my Fanatics link in the description. Goes a long way in helping us. So, hey, talking about help. You can help. You can be the difference by joining Florida Victorious. And, man, Gary Condren steps up again. I don't know if you guys saw the news or not. Donates $1 million to Florida Victorious and the basketball program after winning this national championship. That's how you, if you got it, that's how you do it. Woo! I mean, making sure Coach Todd Golden and his program is going to try and stay on top. So certainly big time donation right there. You don't have to support that much to support these student athletes, but hey, your support, of course, can directly the impact on the court, on the field, any court, right there for these student athletes at the University of Florida. If you want to help the Gators win, well, just like when you pack those stadiums, your unwavering support empowers the Gators to be their best through Florida Victorious. Remember, this Saturday after the Orange and Blue game, you get the invitation to an exclusive event like the meet and greet. You get to get on the field at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium and meet these players. I'm hoping they'll have the basketball team there too. I don't know about that's just me guessing out loud, but would be kind of cool at the same time. So join today. Make a difference in bringing victory to the Orange and Blue. Visit floridavictorious.com to join now. All right, let's give some comments before I get into this. Modern Caveman says, well, I was wondering when you were going to get back into football. Hey, a little bit of basketball talk right there, too, just to start off with. But, yeah, it won't go take long, especially with spring football and spring game coming up. Harrison Sanchez says, go, Gators. Absolutely. Jeremy, going to the spring game. I will be there, man. I will be there. Normal tailgate spot for sure. Florida Boy says, I got mine yesterday, the official black one. Yeah, I like it. Really good. I got a pint glass, another shirt, and a hat, as I mentioned. I ordered one more shirt today with that logo that we was showing off there, the official logo. And then getting one more sent to me. And then my mom just texted and said, hey, this is what I got your dad. So, so there we go. Yep. Text mom right now. Good stuff. It's been a lot of, look, man, I mean, of course, nothing surprising with this, but just because, talking about parents right there. And my dad, I'm telling you, he is asleep by 7 o'clock almost every night. He's an electrician, works out in the heat and the hot sun and all that good stuff. He earns when he wants to crash. But there he was, of course. As soon as the game went final, I'm calling. He's joyful. We're sitting there enjoying that moment together. And that's what it's about. That's the point where I'm saying, enjoy it. It doesn't happen too often. And so, that moment meant a lot. And these moments, hoisting trophies, that's what it's talking about. Tony Aguilini, my good friend, he's posting pictures of him and his dad watching it together. Everybody who was in San Antonio, I know people, Seth Varnador gave tickets to a family. He wasn't able to make it. That's what it's about. Yeah, that's what it's about. So, Florida boy, one more time, Dave, where do I grab the wristbands for the meet and greet Saturday? I already claimed them. That I have no idea. I can try and find out, but maybe reach out on Twitter to Nick De La Torre and see if there. But that I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll have some instruction right there somewhere. All right, let's. I know it took a while to get to the meat of the episode there, but I gotta support that basketball team one more time. All right, let's get into it. Wide receiver room: Billy Gonzales, Aidan Mizell. That's who you'll hear from on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Billy Gonzales. Let's get to him first. And discussing the new faces in the room this spring. Of course, the 3 exciting freshmen, Vernell Brown III, Dallas Wilson, Nashawn Montgomery, and also transfer J. Michael Sturtevant. Gonzales starts us off with this highly heralded freshman.
I think first and foremost is they like to have fun. They're a really tight group of players. Those 3 guys, they're very, very, very tight with one another. They push each other and they compete with one another and they work their butt off. So super excited about those things with that group right there. They're doing a really good job again, but they're very, very tight knit. They compete amongst each other and they push each other. They're very positive with each other. They're going to push each other, but they're very positive with one another as they push each other and work with each other.
From the portal, you guys added him, kind of a veteran presence there. What are you seeing from him?
J. Mike, obviously, the veteran leadership is one. You can tell that he has the ability to step in and lead. And he's got great speed. I think coming out of high school, he was 10-3, 100-meter coming out of high school, and he can run. He's got long speed, but he's got really good. He's getting really good at running routes as well and polishing up that part right there. So it's just learning the system. All those 4 guys. It's kind of with anything. Even though you played a lot of football, you could be overwhelmed just with install as you put install in. So the big thing with those 3 guys, as long as they continue to work, they all, or I should say, all 4 of those guys are continually working hard right now. But then we just got to find detail to find things up a little bit. His speed is top notch, but he's really physical. He's a physical presence, and he's big. I think he's 6'3", 215 pounds, somewhere around there right now. He's not afraid to, there's some guys that, I always talk about pull the parachute. He's not a guy that'll pull the parachute. He's gonna go full speed in there, and he's gonna throw his helmet in there, so the shoulder pads in there. And he's playing multiple positions. So he's a guy that can bounce immediately. He's still learning the offense, but he's a guy that we're moving around from position to position, and he's handling it with great success.
There we go. Billy Gonzales speaking right there about those new additions to the room that are taking part in spring practice. So Chase Wester, I was probably going to come back around to this so I wouldn't forget, but I'll do it now. Kind of set the plate here. Chase says, projected starting group in your opinion, Dave. Really good group on paper. Excited to see them on Saturday. For sure. This will be, we get to see a good bit of those guys go down the depth chart. I think the most obvious way to go would be Trey Wilson, J. Michael Sturtevant, and Aiden Mizell. That's the 3 I'd roll with right now. I think that's the 3 probably most would go with. And I think that gives a really good starting group. If we go 3, 3 wide most of the time there. So that's the way I would look at it. And, of course, I think the big question as we get through here, and I'll come back around to it, are the second-year guys, like your Tank Hawkins. Where do they fit into to the offense and what kind of, because we hear a lot about these freshmen, and rightfully so, given the reputation coming in. But you got some guys who were on the roster last year that we'll get into in just a bit. But what can you get out of the second year players? Then you hear Billy Gonzales right here talking about these freshmen, and even he went on to say more about Vernell Brown III. Says he could tell he would be a player back when Brown was in 8th grade, and Gonzalez' own son was playing high school ball with him, or I guess late middle school ball with him. Billy G mentions Brown's work ethic is unique, shows great burst, and is super, super smart. And he was also asked more about the group as a whole, that freshman group as a whole. And I love something he said about just freshmen in general. And he said, those guys can be leaders too. That just because you're a freshman doesn't mean you cannot be a leader. As long as you're doing the right things, people will follow. They know who was working hard. So that's great to hear, given this group that Florida has. Says all the guys, all these freshmen are attentive. And that's, it's something Billy Napier pushes with, taking detailed notes. All the new faces are in front of the room, so he can specifically watch them take notes in meetings. Needs his guys to know what they are doing so they can play fast. The wide receiver position is very complex when what they ask them to do, but they try to simplify as much as they can so the guys can play faster. Man, I think we were all jumping for joy. Wide receiver recruiting has been pretty good under Billy Napier. And when you sign a Vernell Brown III and a Dallas Wilson, and you see those guys at the top of recruiting rankings, and you have a quarterback like DJ Lagway, you're like, okay, yeah, Florida's on their way. Now it's up for those guys to break through and be guys that they can be counted on. But it starts there most of the time. Stars matter. And then there's Sean Montgomery, who is really thought of, if you ask in certain circles, one of the most underrated receivers in the country. A speedster in his own right. And then Luis Tankara, he'll be joining this group in fall camp in the summer. But this is a good group to get in early, a good group to get in the spring practice routine and get them on the field. We know, Trey Wilson a couple years ago, Billy Gonzales, we'll hear about what he had to say about Trey Wilson, but it was somebody who could find the field right away as a true freshman. So if you prove you can do it. Now, Florida was probably a little more desperation mode for a playmaking receiver at the time. So I think you had some room for a Trey Wilson to work up the depth chart and find his way on the field. But when you recruit guys like Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown, it's not going to surprise you if those guys are out there making meaningful plays, taking big-time snaps early in the season, and then getting better game by game. And, pretty much by the end of the year, you're not a freshman anymore. And then from everything that's been coming out about spring practice so far, these three freshmen, they're legit. They are legit. They're showing up. Now, as I said, we've got all take what we hear with a grain of salt. That spring practice for us is line season. But that is a big word that's coming out in multiple places. Congo Titan says, Nashon is a dog. South Florida wide receivers different. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's keep it going. Let's go to Billy Gonzales and what he had to say about wide receiver Trey Wilson.
He's matured, obviously he's been here 2.5 years now. So you like to see those guys take a step forward and mature in that process as they've learned from the seniors that were before them, just how to handle things, and not just the receiver position, but other seniors and then the captains that you've had on a weekly day in and day sessions with those guys. But he's really picked up the offense, as a freshman. He came in and was just kind of running around and making plays. And, he's done a great job as far as learning the offense right now. It's one thing that he wanted to do a great job in the offseason, and he did, learn the offense. He's a guy that, again, that can play multiple positions, and you can move him around from position to position. But, he's done a great job as far as bulking up his body. And so he looks great, but the step that he wanted to take, and he's done a fantastic job with, is being able to step up and lead the other group, because he can do it by, first and foremost, you got to do it by example. And then, you can do it with the vocal part, because the players will respect you if they know that you're doing it by example too. So I think that's something that you grow into that position, over the last 2 years. Now he's able to do it by example. He knows it day in and day out what he needs to do. So now he can be a little bit more vocal in that step and make those comments to the other players, where they'll lead and follow.
Not too much more on Trey Wilson. He was, we got to hear from him a couple of weeks ago in this same fashion. We went into depth with him of adding on the pounds and adding on the weight to become more of a physical receiver and be able to absorb hits and not be injured so much. Look, that's probably one of the main steps for Trey Wilson and Aidan Mizell, which we'll hear in just a sec for that same thing. But Trey Wilson, certainly can be a weapon. And I think we're all just looking for taking that next step as a receiver. We know he can do the easy stuff that, as you heard him say, he can just kind of go out there and play. But now it's about taking that next step, becoming a receiver, absorb hits, take hits. Of course, we know he's effective on the jet sweeps and the screen passes and the like, but we need to be that more true wide receiver. A lot of pre-snap motion to help your quarterback, help Lagway diagnose defenses. But I think, from what I can gather, from what I would want Trey Wilson to be, is go out there and replace Chimere Dike. As a pure receiver, be that. And then add in the orbit motions and the jet sweeps and the screens. But as far as pure receivers, when you're down the field, I'd love to see Trey Wilson kind of replace what Chimere Dike was last year. And you got J. Michael Sturdivant to be able to do the things Elijah Badger was able to do down the field. I mean, DK was down the field as well. I believe he was top 10 as well in the SEC in yards per reception. Elijah Badger was near the top in the conference and the country. But there you go. That's what Billy G had to say on Trey Wilson. Everybody hit that like button. That really, really helps us out. Thanks, Kyle, for reminding me. I had so much at the beginning of the episode. I don't even think I said it. I got the graphics on here, though, of course, to help remind you. But, yeah, everybody, hit that like button. Subscribe right here on Gators Breakdown if you haven't done so yet. But Kyle showing some love, asking people to hit that like button. All right, let's get to hear from a player. We heard from Billy Gonzales right there. But let's get to hear from a player. But first, thoughts on him from position coach Billy Gonzales, and that's Aidan Mizell. Aidan Mizell has gotten stronger, says Gonzales. His body looks a lot better. He has to continue to be able to push through and continue to maintain health, Gonzales said. He was banged up last year, needs to be able to maintain. He has great speed, but needs to continue to take care of his body. He's making plays vertically down the field so far in spring practice. He can stretch the field and open it up. That is the thing that has stood out the most this spring so far. He has also done, now this is the part I like, he's also done a great job in the RPO game, in the RPO bubble screens. And the example there is, and as soon as he gets the ball, he's exploding upfield. He's understanding that he's stronger now, so he can run through some tackles, and he doesn't just have to outrun everybody. The more confidence he has will be based on how strong he continues to get, says Gonzales. He needs to add some physicality to his game. So it seems like they're trying to develop that part in spring practice. We all know you go back to the scrimmage, and there's a catch and run, much like we saw against Mississippi State last year. But right there in the middle of the field, he catches the ball and a couple of moves, and he's off to the races. That's what we kind of expect to see from Aidan Mizell. Also, Billy Gonzales mentioning, hey, he's a downfield threat. That's what we've been noticing the most this spring is him catching the ball down the field. So if that's what we're hearing, and we saw it when Lagway came in last year, of Aidan Mizell being able to be a downfield threat. Second game of the season, Charleston Southern. DJ Lagway has that launching deep ball down to the right side of the field, and Aidan Mizell's on the other end of it in the end zone. The touchdown versus Georgia, first touchdown versus Georgia, down the field. So we know Aidan Mizell has that in his game. We know he has the catch and run ability in his game. It is about breaking through this year. It is about putting it all together. It's probably taking a little bit longer than we all would have liked for Aidan Mizell, but this is the year. He's one of my breakthrough players this year. It's time. It is time. Third year for Aidan Mizell to be that guy we thought we were getting when Billy Napier put that recruiting class together of Trey Wilson, Aidan Mizell, and Andy Jean. Andy Jean's already on way out. And I'm sure when all three of those guys came in together, we were expecting probably a little more production as a whole. Trey Wilson, we got that his freshman year. We were getting that before he got injured last year. Aidan Mizell, we saw flashes of it last year, but as you just heard me read from Billy Gonzales, it's about staying healthy so he can be out on the field. I'd say that's probably the biggest aspect of him not breaking out so far is he's been injured. So glad to hear there's a big emphasis on maintaining your body, getting your body the right way, and staying healthy. More on that, let's hear from Aidan Mizell himself.
How do you feel like just your game has kind of translated so far this spring? What have you wanted to work on?
Yeah.
How do you feel like that's going?
I'm just trying to be I feel like just an all-around player, just improving everything I can, taking in knowledge, studying more, just like the little things, top of routes, just little stuff like that.
And then where you at with your weight? I know that you're down from what you were last year. Is that intentional? Is there more to that than maybe what the numbers were?
Sometimes just life just happens. You feel me? A little fluctuation, but that I'm where they want me to be. I'm gonna just keep constantly putting on weight.
Do you have a target that you want to get to or think you can get to?
I don't know what their target is. They set my weight. I just do what they tell me to do. Yeah.
I got you.
What are you most excited to do this year? Obviously, last year got a lot of playing time. This year, the wide receiver room looks a bit different.
Yeah. Sorry, repeat the question.
What are you most excited for this upcoming season?
I mean, just to prove what we all know as a group, that we're one of the best teams. And, I mean, we want to end up playing late January, early February for, that championship. So just putting everything together, I feel like we've seen a increase every year. So just putting it all together and winning.
How have the three freshman wide receivers looked? Have you maybe shared any messages with them because they're obviously new?
Yeah, I mean, they all bring their own different aspect to this team. They're all really good. They're really just like taking all the knowledge they can in. They're competitors. They want to learn. They want to play. So, I mean, they're all really good, and I feel like they're definitely going to bring value to this team.
We have heard a lot about just the speed of this receiver room,
Yeah.
but we've also heard a lot about the size, too, with Dallas and J. Mike. What are you seeing from those two? How can they impact this offense in their first year here?
I mean, they're big body receivers, both of them. Just really them 50-50 balls. It's not really a 50-50 with them. You know what I mean? They can really just go up and take that ball. You know what I mean?
And what are your thoughts on Vernell Brown and kind of what you've seen from him so far this spring?
Yeah, VB, he towards the end of high school, he was in Orlando, so I got to see him a little bit. He played my brother and kind of killed him. But so I've been seeing VB. He's a great player. He's gonna be a great player. You can really has that pro mentality. You know what I mean? Especially with his dad. So he's gonna be a great player.
What was it like getting the experience to play with DJ last year and just kind of how the offense kind of opened up once he took over at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, when DJ got here, we were running with the twos, and me and him were just building that connection. So I feel like when we both got an opportunity last year, it was like we just stepped in and, you know what I mean? Like, just I'm losing the words, but we both hit it running, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Where would you rank the receiver room on this team?
Where would I rank it?
Yeah, like if you're ranking Florida's positions, where are you ranking the wide receiver room?
Gotta be one. You feel me? We got all the speed, we got all the talent, playmakers, we got it all. Whatever you need, we got. So I feel like we got to be the best.
But what other group would give you guys a run for your money?
None of them. I like us over all of them.
Straight like that?
Yes, sir.
I like it.
There we go. Perfect segue into some polls that I put up earlier this spring there on Twitter. So I asked, however you want to define it, returning production, potential, etc., which position group for the Gators do you feel better about? The offensive line or wide receiver? Now, I think I did this last year as well. That's one reason I wanted to do it again. And wide receiver was overwhelmingly the favorite. Because, there were questions last year because you had to bring in the transfers in Elijah Badger and Chimere Dike. You only had really Trey Wilson coming back. You had lost Ricky Pearsall. And then there was a lot of questions about the offensive line as well. So this year, Dike and Badger are gone. You bring back Trey Wilson, but he's coming back from injury. But you have those 3 highly touted freshmen. Bring in J. Michael Sturdivant. But wide receiver overwhelmingly won last year. But then the offensive line this year, 4 or 5 starters returning. Some depth being built. So I asked, which position group for the Gators do you feel better about? However you want to define it now. Returning production, potential, etc. 57.8% said offensive line. 42.2% said wide receiver. So almost a 60-40 split. So pretty close. Pretty close. It was out of 583 votes. It was close to a 60-40 split as well on Gators Breakdown Plus. So there's a pretty good barometer there of what position group you feel better about. So Aidan Mizell, of course, I expect him to say wide receiver. He should. That's his position group. Hell Florida Hell in some of the comments. That was a month ago. I did that in earlier March. Now, it's just whatever we're hearing from spring, we're hearing both good about the offensive line and wide receiver. So you probably shouldn't change. But I put this earlier in spring because we were talking about the offensive line at the time. Hell Florida Hell did say, offensive line has a much higher floor, but I think the wide receiver room has a much higher ceiling. And I can see that, given the recruiting profile of the group. Matthew Walker said, I love the wide receivers, but we have 4 starters on the offensive line, so it's hard to get that level of continuity in today's college football. Jeremy Morris said, not feeling great at left tackle. George is decent at best, and we hope Lovett is the guy at right tackle. So he says wide receiver easily for him. So, I mean, I think on the base of it, when you sit here and say offensive line returns 4 or 5 starters, in some ways, I almost expected that to be runaway. But I know how people are excited about this wide receiver room. So seeing that 60-40 offensive line, that's about where it probably should be. If you're taking potential into it, I guess. Chips and Queso, he said it has to be offensive line. I've seen it in action already. Wide receiver is almost purely theoretical. And that's a great point. It's a really good point. And it's a true point. But that's why I asked however you want to define it. However you yourself want to define it. Whether it be returning production, whether it be potential. I wanted you to answer it however you wanted to define it. Brian Fisher says Austin Barber is the left tackle. What was that guy talking about? But I believe he was the lowest rated offensive lineman, the starting offensive lineman returning. So I think that's where that might be coming from, Brian. But he was. Now, if you use PFF grades, if you believe in that or not, I mean, we like to believe in it for Tyreek Sapp because it's a really high grade. We like to really believe in it for Jake Slaughter because it's a really high grade. So just because it's lower on some guys doesn't mean it's not any more believable. But it is a analytical driven thing. It's a number. Sometimes you overlook the numbers. I remember PFF did not think too highly of one Kyle Trask back in the day, and I thought it was ridiculous. So it's not the end all be all. Just one viewpoint. But probably could. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think Austin Barber is good, but it probably could be better at the left tackle spot. Florida Boy says, I love this wide receiver group, but to contend, we have to have the best in the trenches. I agree, especially for this offense and as much as you want to run the ball as the Billy Napier-led team and the good running backs you have and this offensive line, as you said. You got to be there in the trenches. Going to the other side of the ball, I was only talking offense here since we're talking receivers. Those were the 2 ones. But Marty Mann goes to the other side, and he might be right about this. The best unit may end up being the linebackers by the end of the year. Stacked. For sure, Marty, this wasn't a best overall. I mean, because of Lagway, you probably go quarterback. but no, I get what you're saying. If you want to look at the position group as a whole, I really like this linebacker group. So we should hear from on Thursday. Now, this may end up being out after the spring game because they're not giving us to all the new coaches until Thursday. So Robert Bala, Vinny Sinceri, and the other one, Darren Wilson. They're in the secondary. So we get all 3 new coaches on Thursday. So we'll see how that gets put out here on Gators Breakdown. Okay, a couple more. Nick Goldsmith did say, got to have the offensive line, Dave, or DJ can't even throw to the receivers. I'm glad we have that continuity with the big uglies. And Joshua Jackson Moore does say 5 = 1 sounds cliche, but it's true. Our scheme asks a lot for the offensive line, and that development came together in the second half of last season. I'm very excited to see that group take another step in the fall. Joshua going there where I said, yeah, this scheme does ask a lot of its offensive linemen. So we talked plenty of offensive line already, so I ain't going to spend too much time on there. But did want to, since that soundbite ended, asking Aidan Mizell what's the best position group on the team, and of course I expect him to say his own group. I wanted to go back to that poll that I put out. But another poll that I put out around the same time, and chat while you're in here, I want your guys' thoughts on this. It's very intriguing to me. So I asked, which wide receiver will have a bigger impact? Because I mentioned we're waiting for Aidan Mizell to take that next step, and maybe even a projected step, but we're waiting. So who's going to have the bigger impact, Aidan Mizell or J. Michael Sturdivant? Sturdivant, the transfer, shouldn't know the playbook as well. Now, I think that can easily be caught up. We saw Badger and DK fit right in, and Ricky Pearsall fit right in. We've seen transfers, wide receivers come in and do it right away. So the whole playbook experience aspect really shouldn't come into play here. But who are you predicting to have the bigger impact? I'm hoping by the end of the year it's negligible because they both had really good seasons. But out of about 800 votes, 55.6% went with J. Michael Sturdivant, the transfer from UCLA. You heard Billy Gonzales talk about him earlier. Big body, very physical receiver. I've heard he's having a great spring camp, fitting right in right away. And because it's spring camp, I think we are hearing a little more positivity coming out. Probably, I think warranted. But, that's the way spring typically goes. So at the wide receiver spot, we're hearing the new faces, J. Michael Sturdivant from the transfer portal. So far, so good. The 3 true freshmen. So far, so good. Can it be that good? Are they all going to be contributors in their first season in a Gator uniform? We'll have to see. But spring intel so far, so good. All right, let's go through the roster right here, or the depth chart at receiver. And then we'll sign off on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Of course, Trey Wilson, J. Michael Sturdivant, as I mentioned, we already talked about him. 6'3", 205 pounds. Florida's highest rated transfer edition. Projected to replace Elijah Badger on that outside X position. Go down the field, be a deep threat. Got to believe DJ Lag was a huge reason J. Michael Sturdivant coming to Florida. Aidan Mizell, we just talked about him. Of course, there's 5 catches against Georgia to 1 big touchdown. Very, very fast player, one of the fastest players on the team. Wilson, Sturdivant, Mizell, projected starting 3. But we'll see with Khalil Jackson coming back from injury as well. The staff really likes him a whole lot. Not going through spring all too much. So we'll see where that puts him. As I mentioned, the second-year players kind of overlooked here. Tank Hawkins, T.J. Abrams. How do those guys fit in? A lot of speed at that position. Let's not forget. Tank Hawkins sparingly last year. 7 games, 10 catches, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. T.J. Abrams, 5 games in 2024. Had a 31-yard reception in the bowl game against Tulane. And then, of course, the newcomers, Vernell Brown III, Dallas Wilson, Nashawn Montgomery. We're all ready for those guys to be ready. It's game 1. One of the most highly regarded wide receiver classes in the country, adding in Muiz Tunkara as well. So, of course, got to replace Elijah Badger and Chimere Dike. And that's a lot to replace, by the way. It is a lot to replace. I think a really good competition. I think Sturdivant, with his down-the-field mentality, down-the-field threat. We're hearing that from Mizell too now. But Wilson, Sturdivant, I think, pretty secure in spots 1 and 2. I'd probably say that about Mizell as well. But I think there's a really good competition behind that. And maybe, counting that third receiver spot as well. And when you got a recruiting profile like a Dallas Wilson on the outside and a do-it-all mentality like a Vernell Brown, and how everybody just raves about his readiness and preparation, I'm going to be surprised if those guys find their way on the field too. A lot of these guys involved in special teams too. So there we go. Good stuff, guys. A little bit of basketball to celebrate this national championship and getting back into football right here. Talking wide receivers in spring practice. Also, don't forget Greg Smith hitting the transfer portal. Opened the episode up with that breaking news right before we went live here on Gators Breakdown. Mainly, let's give a lot of credit to their freshmen, Hilton Drake Stubbs, Lagonza Hayward on the back end. But we'll see what that means for the Gators. Probably won't be the last one hit the transfer portal. And that's no sign, inclination, me giving anything away. I'm just assuming the nature of the sport right now is just the way it goes. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.